Mission walk, a journey of the soul. We'll mission walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the mission walk, wisdom is yearned. The mission walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk with hearts like roots. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk with hearts like roots. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk with hearts like roots. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk with hearts like roots. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key of what's wisdom shining bright through Torah, treasure to share on the Mishnah walk. We're all aware of Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way on the Mishnah walk. Every single day, Mishnah walk. Every single day, the Mishnah walk. Every single day, Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We're Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth on the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. We're Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key of what's wisdom shining bright through Torah, treasure to share on the Mishnah walk. We're all aware of Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way on the Mishnah walk. Every single day, Mishnah walk. Every single day, the Mishnah walk. Every single day, Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We're Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth on the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. We're Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key of what's wisdom shining bright through Torah, treasure to share on the Mishnah walk. We're all aware of Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way on the Mishnah walk. Every single day, Mishnah walk. Every single day, the Mishnah walk. Every single day, Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We're Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth on the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. We're Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key of what's wisdom shining bright through Torah, treasure to share on the Mishnah walk. We're all aware of Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned on the Mishnah walk. Wisdom is yours. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key Avot's wisdom shining bright. The Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. A Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. We'll Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key Avot's wisdom shining bright. The Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. A Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Key Avot's wisdom shining bright. The Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. A Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages, we find our way on the Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk every single day. The Mishnah walk every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. Rabbi Akiva's teachings are guiding light. Raki Avot's wisdom shining bright. The old Torah treasure to share. On the Mishnah walk, we're all aware. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. From tractate to tractate we roam, unpacking the meaning, making it our home. In the words of the sages we find our way. On the Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, every single day. The Mishnah walk, every single day. Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul. The Mishnah walk, a road of discovery, where ancient texts meet the heart's inquiry. Every step a lesson learned. On the Mishnah walk, wisdom is yearned. The Mishnah walk, a journey of the soul, where the love of learning makes us whole. May every step bring us closer to the truth. On the Mishnah walk, with hearts like roots.
Good morning, Shavuot Tov. Whoop, you're muted.
That was my fault, sorry.
Well, hello,
Okay.
dear ones, people of the scroll and tzitzit. Shavuot Tov,
Yes,
Shavuot Tov.
Shavuot Tov.
Odaya looks straight from Yehuda and Shomron.
She's ready. Fits right in.
He's ready to tackle some terrorists, send them to their drunken 70 cross-dressers.
They're unspecified virgins.
Yes. Yes. Hashem Yasod. All right. You guys ready?
I think so. You wanna record on your end?
I do not. I can't.
Okay,
I need to free up
that's
more
right.
space. It's a big problem.
Okay.
Nobody else is able to record.
I have it recording plus Facebook and YouTube also grab a
Okay,
copy, so we have it.
good. All right. Well, not here. You guys see this beautiful screen?
And
All right. Hodaya, b'chavod. You can read and translate the whole thing
Oh dear.
for beginning or entering a house of study.
Yehi ratzon milefanecha Adonai Elohai. May it be favorable before you, Adonai, the powerful authority over me. Shelo akoshel bidvar halacha. That I shall not stumble in a matter of halacha or Jewish law. Shelo omar al tameh tahor wa al tahor tameh. That I shall not say regarding that which is pure that it is impure, and regarding that which is impure that it is pure. Wa al mutar asur wa al asur mutar. And regarding that which is permitted that it is forbidden, and regarding that which is forbidden that it is permitted.
Do we not get them, misidentify one for the other?
Wa'al ekashel bidvar halacha, and that I shall not stumble in a matter of halacha or Jewish law. Vayismehu bi havarai, and my friends shall rejoice with me. Wa'al yikashlu havarai bidvar halacha, and that they may not stumble in a matter of Jewish law, my friends.
Yeah, either, because you're helping them stay on track.
Wa'esmach bahem, and they shall rejoice with me.
The Aleph is first person, I shall, and I shall.
And I shall rejoice with them.
There
we
you go. Kol hakavod, kol hakavod. Okay. We're going to begin by looking at the summary introductions to the commandments regarding Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement comes right after Rosh Hashanah. Mr. Victor, we are in Sefer HaMitzvot. Can you tell us, in summary, for anyone who may be joining us for the first time, what is Sefer HaMitzvot? Who wrote it? How's it different from the Mishneh Torah?
Is Rambam's well, Rambam wrote the concise 613, right?
Mhm.
Did he also write a slightly more expanded version?
Correct. That is the Sefer HaMitzvot. So the more concise one is actually just part of the beginning of the Mishneh Torah.
Mhm.
We need to define what is Mishneh Torah and what is Sefer HaMitzvot and how are they different.
So Mishnah Mishneh Torah is the list of 613 commandments, or at least the beginning part that we read from
Correct.
is
Just the
the
beginning part
concise
of the
bit.
Mishnah.
And then
But what's the rest of the Mishneh Torah? What is it?
It's the teaching the halakha of practical halakha, how to do the commandments of the 613.
But it's how we do them in practice as a community of the people of Israel. But how is
And
it different from the
still,
Talmud?
well, Talmud is I would say more discussion on kind of like a student's discussion on the 613. Let's talk about it. Let's beat around ideas, but the 613 is the core practical application of God's laws that all of Israel is to keep.
Right. So those are the core stipulations of God's everlasting covenant between himself and Israel. The 613 commandments contained in the first 5 books of the Bible. Right. So anyone, go ahead.
Would it be accurate to say that the Mishneh Torah is kind of like the Cliff Notes to the Talmud?
I'd say it's more than Cliff Notes.
Okay.
Foundation.
Yeah, because it's not trying to summarize everything in the Talmud. The Talmud is not a legal code, right? So the Talmud does contain the core consensus understandings of how, as a nation, we actually implement as a nation, not as independent individuals, each man doing whatever he wants, but as a nation, how we implement the covenant between God and Israel contained in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the first 5 books of the Bible. So the Talmud does contain how we do that as a consensus, but it's not intended as a code of law that anybody can just pick up and then understand in a very systematic way how we do it. That wasn't its intent.
It also contains all of the information that is not practiced. In other words,
Correct.
all of the other opinions that were not accepted,
as well as a whole lot of information that's not legal at all. A lot of stories, a lot of health advice, all sorts of concepts. So really what the Talmud is really a early encyclopedic record of the full corpus of knowledge of the scholars of Israel at the time that it was put together. Right, so it's not intended as specifically an organized code of law. It contains the laws, but they're scattered about, and there's also a lot of topics of discussion, as you mentioned, where it's more of a give and take between scholars or between students, and it's not always a definitive law that's reached. Sometimes yes, but a lot of times not, and sometimes we're just kind of left hanging, and it's left up to later scholars to decide which way a particular community will go. But there are certainly cases where a definitive ruling is given. But it's best to view the Talmud more as an encyclopedic snapshot of the whole corpus of preserved Jewish knowledge of the scholars of Israel from that time. And that's going back nearly 2,000 years ago. Right? So that's the Talmud.
Would you
And then
say that the Sefer HaMitzvot would be, if you wanted to understand Judaism, you don't go to Talmud, you would go to
Correct.
the
This is a
Sefer
huge
HaMitzvot.
mistake everybody makes. I love Torah. I want to become more Torah observant. I want to know how to apply Torah to my life and be a kosher Yid, a Torah observant Israelite. So now I'm going to jump into the Talmud without even having carefully studied the first 5 books of the Bible, even, much less the rest of the Bible, much less the Mishnah. No, this is a huge, huge mistake. This is why there are a lot of people walking around who know a lot of Jewish information, but they're still lacking major basic concepts. So they're confused, and there's constantly a sense of subjectivism, almost like a halachic relativism, even in the ultra-Orthodox world, because people just jump into the Talmud and don't ease themselves into the Talmud through a systematic progression of learning, starting from the core that is not even the Mishnah, that is the first 5 books of the Bible, and slowly building themselves up progressively from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, to the Mishnah, and then from the Mishnah to the Talmud, slowly, incrementally. No, they just jump right in. So what is Sefer HaMitzvot that we're about to look at to get a good snapshot of Yom Kippur, in Hebrew usually referred to as Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonements, plural. What is the Sefer HaMitzvot? So because the Talmud is not intended as a user-friendly guide for the broad population of the people of Israel, it's not intended as a user-friendly guide for learning halakha, practical application of God's commandments. So Maimonides, till today, is the only scholar of Israel who codified, that is, he crystallized, isolated the final rulings, the conclusions, the legal conclusions in the Talmud. He took those and crystallized them and removed all of the back and forth debate and all of the stories and the tangents that you find in the Talmud, where they go on a tangent of different stories and legends and opinions about all sorts of things. He distilled the legal conclusions from all of that, and then he organized it in a very systematic way so that you can quickly look up the laws. To be clear, it's not that every single Jewish community, in fact, most, do not feel bound to uphold every single opinion of Maimonides, also known as Rambam. They don't feel that it's a divine commandment directly from God that they have to do every opinion of Maimonides that you find in the Mishneh Torah, his code of Talmudic law. But it is universally respected among historical Jewish communities because it's unparalleled. So just throwing out a number, let's say 90% of the time, what any serious Jewish community does as a community, as a consensus implementing of God's commandments, is going to be in accordance with the Mishneh Torah, roughly 90% of the time. But they don't feel that if they have a rabbi or there was some other rabbi in history whose opinion seems more sensible to them, or at least to their particular scenarios, it doesn't mean they feel like it's forbidden for them to go by another opinion on a particular isolated matter. So that's the Mishneh Torah. It is the only systematic, big picture of how the ancient sages of Israel understood that as a nation we will apply God's everlasting commandments, which we find in the Torah. That's the Mishneh Torah. What is Sefer HaMitzvot? In contrast to the Mishneh Torah, which goes into nitty-gritty detail, Sefer HaMitzvot simply gives you a 1 to 2 paragraph summary of each of the commandments from the Torah, which constitute the parameters, the stipulations of the covenant between God and Israel, right? So the covenant between God and Israel, which God explicitly declares is an everlasting covenant for all generations. It sets up these commandments that you find in the Torah as the conditions of that covenant. These are not just simply rabbinic laws or Jewish customs, right? Sure, from a secular, atheistic, anthropological perspective, you may say it's all just human traditions. But for people who believe in the Bible or respect the Bible or claim to believe in all the prophets, who, of course, they were all Muslim, right? For people who claim to believe in all the prophets, this is not a small thing. It's extremely significant. It's backed up in every single book of the Bible. It predates Islam by millennia. You find it confirmed in the oldest pre-Christian manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible and the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint. You find it affirmed again and again the everlasting nature of this covenant between God and Israel. So anybody who claims to believe in all the prophets should take it seriously. The Sefer HaMitzvot that we're about to look at is simply a summarized introduction, let's say, in a systematic way to each of the conditions of that covenant between God and Israel, right? Without going into the nitty-gritty detail, without having to go through all the narrative of the Bible as well. So it assumes that a person is familiar with the Bible. It's not intended as a replacement of the Bible. It is a quick reference to be able to get a quick overview. And that's what we're about to do right now. Shem Adonai El Alion. Right. Andaya, would you like to read the first? We are in Sefer HaMitzvot, the summarized compilation of the 613 commandments by Maimonides, the Rambam.
That is that he commanded to offer an additional sacrifice on the 10th day of Tishrei. And that is his, may he be blessed, saying, and on the 10th day of the 7th month, you shall offer a burnt offering as a pleasing odor to the Lord. Numbers chapter 29, verse 7 through 8. See Parashat Pinhas, Mishneh Torah daily offerings and additional offerings 10.
All right, so here the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvot, what we're looking at here, he's always going to tell you where you can find it in the Bible as an explicit commandment from God, and where you can find it expounded upon in greater detail in the Mishneh Torah. Can you guys tell me, when it's referring to a sacrifice, it says to offer a sacrifice, where is it talking about? At your local church, at your local synagogue, in New York City, in Crown Heights, in, I don't know.
Crown Heights, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Where is it talking about? Is it talking about in Tel Aviv?
Let's see, Mount of Olives. Yeah, Mount of Olives. No.
So the Torah explicitly states as one of the 613 conditions of God's covenant between God and Israel, states that when we make these offerings which God commanded, we're not to do them just wherever we find convenient for ourselves. We're to do it at a very specific location, the place which the Almighty chose, the premises of his sacred temple. What they say in Hebrew, Bet HaMikdash, and in Arabic, for all those lovers of the prophets who deny their words, they happen to call it the Betul Maqdis. So it's obviously the same thing. Hebrew Bet HaMikdash, in Arabic Betul Maqdis. They know this. They just are in denial, right? So here we are bringing the commandments of God, min Allah, and saying that if you want to respect the prophets of God, if you accept the prophets of God, then you will make these offerings if you are a member of the people of Israel. We're not saying the entire world has to do it. But even if you're not a member of the people of Israel, but you want to serve the creator of the universe and you claim to serve the one God of the prophets of ancient Israel, then you must recognize and you should not oppose, but you should respect this commandment. And if you do, what are you doing fighting against the people of Israel while you claim they are unfaithful to God, yet you are preventing them from upholding the commandments of God and making these offerings in the place that the Lord chose, the place appointed by the prophets of ancient Israel, whom you claim to follow, while pointing a massive hypocritical finger at the Jewish people. Well, actually, that finger turns around and should go in your own eye, right? And so it is part and parcel with our upholding the covenant between God and Israel, being faithful to the prophets of Israel, that we will make this offering and we'll do it in the way that the Almighty prescribed, right? Not just fast at our temples and synagogues around the world and act like, oh, we did our due diligence. No, one of the 613 everlasting conditions of our covenant with God, which if we just disregard it, we are not being faithful to the covenant. We're not being Shomrei Habrit. Every community of Israel, where they're referring to themselves as Shomrei Habrit, the keepers of the covenant, who belittles this commandment, is either ignorant or a hypocrite, and we should just prefer to believe that they're just ignorant. It's our duty to educate them, as well as any non-Israelite who claims to respect the prophets of Israel. So, this next month in Jerusalem, right? On Harabait, Haram al-Sharif, the sacred mount, there should be offerings. Whether or not we are able to do it depends on the leadership that we may or may not have chosen.
Yeah.
Right? I pray that all the onlookers choose to side with the right side of history.
I believe
Oh, no.
I believe
Yes,
they
sir.
seek permission to do it from their leaders. The leaders say no.
Not enough of
Religious
us, like you
people,
mentioned last week, not enough of
yeah,
us petition them. So it's our duty to not only petition them, but to work to increase knowledge among the Jewish people so that we will all petition them. If
right.
enough of us petition them, then they're going to feel the political clout, that if they don't start taking us seriously, they're not going to have a position in government. They're going to lose their paycheck, right?
Right. They want to make this point is that this what we're talking about, this offering has to be made this year. It has to be made last year. It has to be made
Absolutely.
every
For the
year.
last 2,000 years,
Yeah,
it
we've
was not suspended.
right,
God simply is part of our transgressions that are being forgiven on Yom Kippur. But the only people for whom this is forgiven are those who actually wanted to do it, but were prevented against their will. Those who knew about it and didn't want to do it are not forgiven. They're called to repent. They're called to turn back to uphold the covenant between God and Israel.
yeah. Otherwise, they would also attempt to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good point.
Anybody, whether you were a non-Jew or a Jew from birth, looking as from as you could possibly look, or as cultured as you could possibly be, who claims to represent the historical people of Israel, who devalues these fundamental elements of the covenant between God and Israel, who belittles them and even criticizes the Jewish people while claiming to represent us, is guilty of cultural appropriation. They're just picking and choosing what they want from the ancient heritage of the Jewish people while actually not respecting that heritage. All of these commandments go together. It is not just a salad that I can pick out what I like to be Jewish tradition and whatever I don't like is just, oh, those old primitive Jews. Jews who act this way are feeding fodder to the flames of anti-Semitism. You're feeding in, and you've already given over and aligned yourself with their lies. So again, this is something for members of the Jewish people to repent about. We should not just repent about, oh, I didn't vote for the right political party, right? That's not that's not what the Torah is about. Align yourself with the Torah if you claim to represent it. Yalla,
That's just aligning
namshich.
with Victor, not Torah, right?
Be for victory. Yalla.
Hey,
Namshich.
before we move on though, we're discussing the 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 offerings that must come. Which ones do we not have to bring? In other words, there are lots of types of offerings. And I don't want people to make the assumption that, oh, well, my Thanksgiving offering also has to be brought. And, someone's in trouble because I didn't get to bring it. That we're, and especially without the ashes of the red heifer, that's not happening anyway. But these that are time bound have to be brought even in a state of ritual impurity.
All right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hodaya b'chavod. This is the 49th of the proactive commandments in Sefer HaMitzvot.
That is that he commanded us to do the service of the day, meaning the sum of all the sacrifices and the confessions arranged for the fast of Yom Kippur, in order for them to atone for all of our transgressions as it appears in Scripture. And this is the service that is written in Achrei Mot, Leviticus 16, and the proof about the sum of all of it being only one commandment is their saying in Tractate Yoma 60a, the whole process of Yom Kippur must be in order. If one performed one of the actions before another, he has not done anything. And all of the regulations of this commandment have already been explained in Tractate Yoma. See Parashat Achrei Mot, Mishneh Torah, Service on the Day of Atonement 4.
Metsuyan. Kol hakavod. Food for thought. When we read in the Torah about Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement, and we read the description of the high priest of Israel making atonement for the people of Israel, do we find anywhere in there that in order for this atonement to be legitimate for the people of Israel, that individuals, you and I, whoever's a member of the people of Israel, the Jewish people, do we find anywhere in the Torah where God commands regarding the high priest making this atonement that it's only legitimate and that atonement only applies to the individual if that individual knows the name of the high priest, knows his biography, knows what city he was born in, knows how he will die, assuming.
Mhm.
Does it say that the atonement of this high priest only is effectuous, only applies to the Israelite if the Israelite prays to him or thinks that he is God? Do we find anything like that in the Torah?
I hope not.
Well, if it's there, I would like someone to show us, because if Jesus is the high priest or the fulfillment of the high priest, and that is the basis or one of the bases for mainstream normative Christian understanding of Jesus, then we need to find where this was a requirement. Otherwise, even if we assume that Jesus were a Messiah or the Messiah, even if we assume that the Messiah must die and that atonement is only through him, even, and I'm just giving a benefit of the doubt, even if we assume that the only of the four gospels in the New Testament, the only one with the famous quote that they build a how do they say it? Make a something out of an anthill.
A mountain out of a molehill?
Yeah. Even if we assume that the only of the four gospels, the one written the latest, where they put in the mouth of Jesus that I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. Even if we believe that that was actually uttered by Jesus, we must ask, where is this found in the Torah? If it's not found in the Torah and you're making this a stipulation of the covenant between God and Israel, then you are guilty of adding to moving from the Torah. You've added a commandment that's not there, and you've removed from the commandment that prohibits adding to it, right? You are in violation of the covenant between God and Israel if you understand it in the way that Christianity teaches it. Assuming Jesus actually taught that, right? I'm not here to say he did or didn't, but if you assume it, you have to understand those words in a way that does not contradict the Torah. So I'm going to suggest to any Christians or Messianics watching this, if you believe that God is consistent, that God is faithful, that God does not contradict himself, and that he will not command us to do things that will require us to break his commandments and imply that he's self-contradictory, then you have to understand that passage put in the mouth of Jesus, where he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. You have to understand it in a way that is in harmony and does not add to what we find in the Torah. I think this is possible. In multiple ways. I don't think there's only one way of understanding it. But for 2,000 years, they've only read that passage in one exclusive manner, in a manner which does not bring more mercy and grace to the world, but which removes mercy and grace from the world. So I think it's time, with respect to Jesus, for those who claim to so highly esteem him, with respect to Jesus, to restore some dignity and respect to his name, and understand that passage, if it's going to be touted in his name, understand it in a way that brings mercy to the world rather than brings an exclusivity club that claims to be all inclusive and loving, but is actually condemning the majority of humanity to hell forever, right? So how can we do that? Let's just look at it. Look at the saying, I am the way and the truth and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. It doesn't say that you are going to be excluded from the atoning work that you believe Jesus did if you don't know his precise name, if you don't know his biography, if you don't even know when he lived or if he lived. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that at all. That's people putting that into the text when it's not there. If you view Jesus like a fulfillment of the high priest of Israel in the Yom Kippur service, which you should if you are trying to be faithful to the covenant between God and Israel and believe in a God who is consistent and does not lie and is not trying to set you up in a trap to send you to hell, then you must understand these words if you believe them to be from Jesus and you think he is the Messiah or whatever. Then you have to understand it in a way that is reasonable and consistent with the service of the high priest of Israel. Where is it? Where is it in the words of the Torah that you have to know the high priest's name in order for the atonement to be effectuous, in order to receive your forgiveness of sins? Where does it say you need to know how he died? Where does it say you need to think he's the Messiah? Where does it say you even need to know that he is alive? You don't need to know whether or not he's alive or dead or was resurrected. This is aside from the question of whether or not those things actually happen, right? You can believe that Jesus did all these things, was died and resurrected on the third day. You can believe that and still it work with Torah and not contradict Torah. But the moment you say that if you have any question or doubt about any of these things, or if you don't believe it happened, that now suddenly you're excluded from the covenant between God and Israel. Now you're adding to the Torah. You're adding things that are not there. And what that means is you're putting words in God's mouth. There's a word for that. It's called blasphemy. It's blasphemous. It is an audacious, stiff-necked reproach to God. It's the height of disrespect to the God of the universe to put words in his mouth and then condemn the majority of his creation, even the most sincere of them, to everlasting hell. That's disgusting. He who turns his ear away from heeding the Torah, even his prayer is an abomination. Whose prayer is an abomination? The one who puts words into the mouth of God. The one who establishes a religion contrary to the Torah, knowing that it's contradicting the Torah. Your prayer is an abomination. And when you stand before the judge and you say, but I cast out demons in your name, but I did so much for you, it's going to be said to you proverbially, not necessarily literally, leave my presence. I never knew you, you worker of lawlessness, you who turned your ear away from heeding the Torah. Also, I think any sincere Christian or Messianic, and I believe there are many, must ask themselves, it's your duty to ask yourself if you respect the words of Jesus. And I know some of them might think that I'm speaking condescendingly. I'm completely serious. I am friends with many Christians and Messianics. They're in my family, they're in my community, and I love a lot of them dearly. I know that there are many sincere Christians and Messianics, as well as Muslims and other people of other faiths. But there's no question that Messianics are just a little bit closer, to fully joining the people of Israel in all the ways possible. They're so close. So that's why I care so much about it, because God is near to the brokenhearted and to the sincere. And many of these people are very sincere. So I ask you to ask yourself, if you believe that the four Gospels are the inerrant word of God, and you believe that each one of those is a gospel, presents the gospel, the good news of salvation, right? If so, do you think there's anything lacking in the Gospel of Matthew for your salvation? Is there lacking? Or if you read the Gospel of Matthew and you believe it, do you believe that that person has the ability to place their faith in God in a way sufficient enough to receive his grace and forgiveness? Do you believe it or do you not? What about the book of Mark or of Luke? Okay, if you believe it, then you should believe that that's possible without believing that extra criteria, if understood in the popular way, the extra criteria you find in the book of John. Because that criteria is not found in any of these other gospels, which happen to be the oldest of the gospels, which happen to have the most harmony between each other. It just happens to not be there. Such a monumental, statement, especially if it's understood in the way that is popularly understood in the Christian establishment and the Messianic establishment, which is one of the reasons why the normative or mainstream Messianic community, with its various types, but the mainstream among them, their commonalities are essentially, at the end of the day, on a fundamental level, not that different. It's basically the same as normative Christianity. You don't find it in the other gospels, only in John. and like I said at the outset when discussing this topic, it's not so much of an issue if you understand that key passage in Christianity put in the mouth of Jesus, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. It's not so much of a problem if you understand it in harmony with the Torah, but that's not what's normally done. So here, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, this is a time of judgment and repentance, not just for Israel, but for the whole world. So for your sake, I'm calling you back to the Torah. Yes, sir.
So a lot of what you just talked about for deals with you asked it kind of on a personal level. You were talking to individuals about their beliefs and what have you. But Yom Kippur, is it about an individual or is it about a people, about a nation being forgiven?
Ultimately, it's about the nation and the whole world.
So
but this is inseparable from individual repentance. A nation doesn't repent unless individuals are repenting.
Sure, absolutely. But I think what most people fail to realize is that we're looking at something that is for the people. In other words, there is no offering to bring for willful sin.
Correct.
You can bring for mistake. I made a mistake. Let me go rectify that, and you can at the temple. Here we're talking about. Go ahead.
No, everything you're saying is on the assumption that you're trying to build your understanding of atonement and offerings on the Torah. And of course, overwhelming majority of people who talk about these things and hammer Jews over the head with the false gospel, the so-called gospel, right? And they should know, if they read the New Testament, they should know that there is a concept of false gospels. There are concepts of another Jesus.
Sure.
And I venture to say that anybody who studies the Torah seriously will see that the gospel and the Jesus of normative Christianity, with many sincere people there, bless their hearts, but the gospel and the Jesus they are preaching is a false gospel. If Jesus is not a false prophet, if you want to judge him with the benefit of the doubt, then the gospel that he's preaching is nothing other than the everlasting gospel that's been here from the beginning. It is the word of God that you find in the Torah and nothing else. He's just simply summarizing it in a way that regular folk can understand it, no different from how Hillel did, in calling them back to a relationship with God in accordance with the Torah. If it's anything else, it's a false gospel. The gospel of Jesus is the gospel of Moses, if Jesus is not a false teacher. That's it.
Okay.
יאללה, בואו נמשיך. הודיה, יש לך משהו להוסיף? Do you have anything to add?
No.
All right, יאללה, בואו נמשיך. So with
Also,
regards
to those listening on Facebook or YouTube, we do have a comment section. Throw a question in there, and we will try to jump on that, especially on the topic.
So anyone who understands that famous verse from the Gospel of John, the latest and the most questioned in scholarly circles of the four Gospels, anyone who understands that passage, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no man comes to the Father but by me, anyone who understands that in the exclusionary way that normative Christianity has done, in a way that condemns all Jews who have not become Christians to hell forever, they have to ask themselves, is only the Gospel of John a legitimate representation of the Gospels? Or is also Matthew, Mark, Luke, are they also legitimate? Because if that particular verse, understood in the way that they do, if it's absent from those other three Gospels, which it is absent, then those other three Gospels are not the Gospel. But I would suggest, if you want to be logically consistent, if you want to give Jesus the benefit of the doubt, or perhaps it's not even about Jesus, it's just about the Gospel of John or whoever wrote it. We don't even know if John actually wrote it. That's a tradition that's not in the text, right? It's a man-made tradition, right? That's what it is. And if we want to give that writer of the Gospel of John the benefit of the doubt that Jesus actually said this, then you need to interpret it in a way that harmonizes it, of course, with the Torah. But if you're not there yet, that you understand that everything needs to be in line with the Torah if God is consistent, I recognize a lot of people are not there yet. They just don't understand that for some reason. It takes time. Nobody understands everything all at once. Well, at least understand that it needs to be in harmony with the previous three Gospels. At least understand that. So however you are going to understand the passage, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me, which we find in John, the Gospel of John. At least try to understand it in a way that does not contradict the previous three Gospels. So you need to be able to find some sort of concept like that that is present in the previous three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And if you understand it in the way that you see Moses referred to in the book of Acts, where it says that we don't need to compel on these non-Jews who are joining the community of believers, because they will be hearing Moses preached in the synagogues, not churches, in synagogues every Shabbat. The same way we know that the focus there, when it says that Moses is preached, the focus is not on personality worship of Moses. It's not on idolization of Moses, but it is a reference, just simply in the name Moses. It's understood that it's a reference to the teachings of Moses, and not intended as creating a personality cult that lusts over the name of Moses, right? That's what it means to know the gospel of Jesus. It doesn't mean to create a personality cult that sings pop romance songs to Jesus, and they just switch out the words from Katy Perry and plug in the name Jesus there. That's not what that's not what it is. It's saying the gospel of Jesus is reference to the teachings of Jesus, not the way he looked in his long black hair and his beard, and this imagined image of Jesus, which no one knows what Jesus looked like. But when they pray, they have an image of this man that they never saw, but they have seen. It's an image that the Catholic Church has been presenting them, which Protestants adopted, and they still worship that image. It's just not a ceramic idol in the church, but it's still in their heads, and they need to clean their temple of the idol within it. If they understand that the temple of the Jews, the temple of Israel, was a symbol, supposed to be understood as a symbol for the nation itself, and that no matter how beautiful the physical temple looks, if the nation is not in communion with God, then the temple is doomed to destruction. Why do you think you're any different? The same way there should be no idol in the temple, there should be no idol in your mind. That is the Holy of Holies that is represented in the temple. Clean out the idols. There should be no idol there. Even if you believe that Jesus is the Messiah, that's fine. We're not talking about that. There is no commandment in the Torah that says thou shalt not think Jesus is the Messiah. But there is a commandment in the Torah that you should not worship false gods. So think he's the Messiah. I'm not here to remove your faith in that. I wasn't there. I can believe Jesus wasn't resurrected, but can I honestly know it? I can't know that. And what does it hurt me to think that Jesus was resurrected? I believe, and every day I testify, like all traditional Jews, Baruch Mahayeh HaMethim. Blessed is he, most worthy of praise is he who resurrects the dead. This is in the daily prayers of the Jewish people. That's not offensive to me. If anyone is resurrected, all the more so if a righteous man is resurrected, it's a cause to praise God. I don't care if that happened. If I know that it happens, that's great. The fact is, I don't know it happened, and I have reason to suspect it didn't, but it's not offensive to me. If you want to believe it, kol hakavod. So you have a lot of faith. Maybe you have more faith than me. I don't know. It's not that I deny it. They should understand that as well. It's just that I'm not going to be dogmatic about something that I don't know. But keep believing that. Just don't add to the Torah. Don't add to the Torah. And accusing people.
Don't require a belief that the Torah does not require.
Correct. That's adding to the Torah.
Yeah.
In fact, Jesus himself does not say, 90% of the things that people claim in his name if you give a careful reading of the New Testament. But even if he did claim those things, they should know that something is not true just because Jesus said it. The same way something is not true, you cannot invent new dogma or new fundamentals of a faith just because some prophet said it. Once God gave his everlasting covenant, which cannot be added to or removed from, which happened with Moses, it did not happen before or after. Once he did that, the gates to everlasting conditions of the covenant were closed. There's no other. The moment you add something, you violated the covenant. Can there be other prophets? Absolutely. Those prophets don't have permission to add to the commandments. Right before God says there will be future prophets, in the Jewish numeration of the chapters, it's at the beginning of the chapter, the same chapter, right before it talks about how God will raise up future prophets. It says, and you will not add to these commandments or remove from them. That is the litmus test. If a prophet can add to or remove from the commandments, then there's no end. There is no end to new religions. There has to be a cutoff point where the gates are shut. Otherwise, just as Christianity could invent new commandments, why do they complain that Islam did the same, or Joseph Smith? It's not rational. Not rational. Yalla, let's get back in line. Okay. So we learned that the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement is effectuous. It's legitimate and it's applicable to all who are in covenant with God, regardless of whether or not they know the name of the high priest. They don't even know, they don't even need to know how old he was, where he was born, who his mother was, how he died. It doesn't say that they need to know that he was resurrected. It doesn't say that they need to know at what time of day, what day. It is simply their job to repent. And if they repent, it's effectuous, right? So still, the nation of Israel, maybe they don't get atonement. I mean, according to the Torah, the people of Israel do not get atonement as a nation. We're not talking about on an individual level per se, but as a nation, we don't have atonement if we high-handedly abstain from the Yom Kippur service. But if we do the service, if the service happens with the high priest, it's effectuous regardless of the extent of people's knowledge of the high priest. That would mean that in that case, we get atonement because of the work of the high priest. We get atonement as a nation because of the work of the high priest. So that you could say, in that case, when the high priest is able to do this action, there is no atonement that is independent of the actions of the high priest. And at the same time, you don't have to know all this stuff about him. I don't know if you guys are connecting the dots. I'm trying not to say something explicit, but basically, you could say that no one comes to the Father in that situation, in the situation where we have the ability to do it, and there was a high priest who did it, then the atonement that we get is through that action. It's not through some other action. It's through that action during a time when we're able to do it. But it's not dependent on you knowing everything about him. That is the clincher that gets added in normative Christianity that's simply not there. Okay, let's keep going. Victor, Bechavod, your turn.
He prohibited doing work on Yom Kippur, and that is his saying, "You shall not do any work," Leviticus 23:28. And
This
the one
is
who
the restrictive commandment 329. So when we start reading, let's say the numbers, so in case someone's listening and they're not watching.
And one who transgresses this negative commandment is punished with excision, as it is explained in Scripture. But if it was inadvertent, he is liable for a fixed sin offering, as we discussed. And the regulations of this commandment have been explained in Tractate Beit Sah, Megillah, and other ones besides them. See Parshat Emor, Mishneh Torah, Rest on a Holiday, Chapter 1.
Right? And as with all
Bookmark.
commandments, there's never excision. There is never spiritual excision being cut off from God due to an inadvertent commandment. Right? So that idea as well, which is normative in establishment Christianity and the Messianic mainstream, that idea is antithetical to the Torah. Who is Antichrist but he who promotes a Christ that is anti-Torah? That is Antichrist. There is no spiritual excision from God unless there is high-handed, not conscious rebellion against God. If it is a mistake out of ignorance or due to something beyond one's control, there's no spiritual excision. It takes actual high-handed sin. And that is a God of mercy, not a God that is just waiting to zap you and send you to hell, which is a large factor in the widespread secularization of the Western world. It's in reaction to this ridiculous, heavy-handed image of God that is promoted while doing so under a banner of love and grace. Love and grace, but he wants people to burn in hell forever. And you just can't wait. And I know full well that not every Christian or Messianic believes that. I'm talking about the mainstream. That is what the mainstream teaches. A person who doesn't know that is not familiar with the mainstream. Oh, I think I just closed the wrong one.
Mhm.
Where is it? It gets so bright in here in the morning. The sun is like right in the window in front of me. Okay, and I can't, it's hard for me to see what's on my screen sometimes. Okay, Hodaya, b'chavod.
Restrictive
Go ahead, sorry. Let's first say
restrictive
the
commandment 196.
beautiful.
He prohibited us from eating on the fast of Yom Kippur, but the Torah is not explicit about the prohibition of this act. Rather, it mentions the punishment and makes one who eats liable for excision, such that we know he is prohibited from eating. And that is his saying, for any person who will not be afflicted, etc. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 29. And at the beginning of Keratot 2a, when they listed those who are liable for excision, they listed among them one who eats on Yom Kippur. And they explained there that everything for which we are liable,
Everything for which we're liable, excision.
Excision is a negative commandment, except for the Pesach offering, sacrifice, and circumcision. Behold, it has been confirmed that eating on Yom Kippur is a negative commandment, and therefore we are liable for excision for its volitional transgression, and a fixed sin offering for its inadvertent transgression.
Okay, and if there's a word that many people don't know, we should try to explain it. So volitional means willful, high-handed, conscious. Right? So it's just the antonym, the opposite of inadvertent, on accident. Right? So volitional means it's not that you were coerced or stumbled or were unaware. It's high-handed sin. That's volitional.
You knew what you were doing.
Yep. And not only that you knew, but you weren't you were not coerced. It's possible to know what you're doing, but there'd be something coercing. Right? So I think probably the best translation for that sort of a thing is high-handed. Certainly not volitional. I love I love rare words, but they're not good when you're writing for
$3 words, I call them.
Say what?
I call them $3 words. Actually, my dad coined that phrase.
Jewish translations are notorious for it. It's great for expanding your vocabulary, but it's not great for reaching a broad audience. All right, let's pick back up here. I apologize for interrupting.
And therefore we are liable for excision for its high-handed transgression, and a fixed sin offering for its inadvertent transgression, as they explained at the beginning of Keratot, and as it is explained in Tractate Horayot,
Orayot, that's right.
Orayot. Commentary on the Mishnah in Keratot 2, 3 through 4.
All right, and any I in the transliteration of Hebrew, you can assume to be an E sound. It should consistently make an E sound.
Keritot.
There you go.
That this law is only mandated for a negative commandment. Because of his saying about those that are liable for a fixed sin offering, one of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which should not be done. Leviticus chapter 4, verse 13. And in the language of the Sifra Emor chapter 14, 4 and 9, is for any person who will not be afflicted. This is the punishment for the non-affliction. But we have not heard the prohibition about the non-affliction on the day of Yom Kippur itself.
Okay, and
It
the
is-
affliction, every time it's referring to affliction, fasting is the big part of that. That's what it has in mind. In Hebrew, especially modern Hebrew, it's even synonymous with fasting. Som, you have the word som, but you also have this word, which is ta'anit. It's frequently used in the sense of a fast, but literally means an affliction. And that's because in the Bible itself, we see fasting used as a definition of affliction. You find that in the book of Isaiah where fasting is discussed as well. So it's a biblical interpretation. It's not just like a evil Talmudic tradition of man that you fast on Yom Kippur. The idea that fasting is a biblical definition of affliction is found in the Bible itself.
Do you want
Can
me
you
to start
scroll
there?
up a little bit?
Oh, we stopped right here, but you want me to scroll up or because you think that's where we stopped? What do you want? Hello?
Scroll up to where but we have is at the top, so we can see it. No,
No, it's at the
the
bottom.
other up.
No, it's
Right, move it up to the top. In other words, there you go.
what do you?
Mm.
I don't know what you're looking for. Do you want where we left off, or do you want something else?
I want to see what's coming.
So that was right where we were starting off. I didn't. It's below, not above. Right here.
Hodiah.
But we have not heard the prohibition about the non-affliction on the day of Yom Kippur itself. It is when it states the punishment for work. For let it not be stated, since it may be derived a foratory.
Yeah, I think that means.
I'm guessing it's Latin.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that means, like if this, then that. I'll double check. Pretty sure that's what it means. Yeah. I apologize for that kind of thing, but hey, it's great for expanding your vocabulary. What does?
From the stronger.
Right. Yeah. If this, then that. I'm pretty sure that's what it
Oh,
means.
so
Like-
Calvacomer, basically.
Correct. Correct. I just want to double check. Yeah, that's what it means.
It's funny they put that instead.
There's no need to do that, you know? It's ridiculous.
So what was it again?
It's like saying if this is true, then all the more so that is true.
Okay. For let it not be stated, since it may be derived that since this is
By
true,
comparison of one matter, if one matter is true, then all the more so it would stand to figure that this other thing would be true.
if non-affliction, the ban against which does not obtain on holidays and Shabbat, is on Yom Kippur punishable, then work, the ban against which does obtain on holidays and Shabbat, how much more so should it be punishable? Why then is the punishment for work stated? To derive from its prohibition against non-affliction. Just as the punishment for labor follows a prohibition, so too does the punishment for non-affliction follow a prohibition. Behold, we have said, what we have said is explained, and the regulations of this commandment have already been explained in Tractate Yoma. See Parashat Emor, Mishnah Torah, rest on the 10th of Tishrei 1.
Kol hakavod, kol hakavod.
So on that other item, if this minor detail is true and established, how much more so this great detail?
Yeah. Yeah, like if a good parent loves their uh loves their niece, then all the more so must they love their own child, something like that. No, or
Yeah.
if you go to visit your friend when they're sick in the hospital, then how much more so should you go to visit your wife if she's in the hospital? All you husbands out there, I'm looking at you.
I'm just looking at other examples. If a marathon runner can run 26 miles in under 3 hours, then for Tiori, they can run 10 miles in under an hour.
Oh yeah, that's an even better example. That's great.
Yeah. If it's too cold to wear shorts in 20 degrees, then a Fortiori is too cold when it's 0 degrees.
Oh yeah, these are even better than my examples. Very good. Very good.
Okay.
Hopefully people understand the idea now.
Mhm. Emmanuel has his microphone ready to
house.
go. Yes.
Yalla. Just read the number that we're at and then continue.
Okay. That is that he commanded us
No,
to
let's
fast.
read the number. Let's read the number of the commandment that we're
Oh.
at, and then you read. So
So,
proactive commandment.
You said Mitzvot, positive commandments, 164. That is that he commanded us to fast on the 10th day of Tishrei, and that is that may he be exalted, saying
It's an interjection, like, and that is he, may he be exalted. It's like saying,
that is
and that
okay.
is his, praised be he, and that is his, most holy is his name, right? So it's just
Okay.
a unconnected interjection of praise to God.
Okay. Saying, afflict your souls, Leviticus 16:29, and the explanation appears in Sifra Acharei Mot, chapter 7:3. Affliction that destroys a soul. And what is that? Abstention from eating and drinking. And the
All right,
tradition.
and this may not make a lot of sense to a lot of people because soul is understood in colloquial English as referring to one's, like inner spirit or the eternal aspect, not their body. But that is not the way that this word works in Hebrew. It's more like 5,000 souls were lost. There it's referring to deaths, like to the loss of the physical body. So the term soul doesn't always just mean spiritual; it can also mean physical. And in Hebrew, it more often refers to the biological life of the person. So afflicting of the soul, when it says it in the Torah, it's talking about afflicting your not just your external appearance, but also your internal feeling. But it's not necessarily just your spirit. It's doing something physical that makes you suffer a little bit, to be frank.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that to clarify that, I think it's great. In the tradition Yoma 73a, likewise, came to teach that it is forbidden for bathing, anointing, wearing shoes, and sexual relations, and the resting is designated for all of these actions by he's saying it is a Shabbat of Shabbatons, and that you shall afflict your souls or your bodies. Leviticus 16:31. It is as if he said that the obligation is a specific resting from work and the specific resting from nourishment for the body and its preservation. And he hence said, Shabbaton, in the language of Sifra Acharei Mot, in chapter 8:3 is, from where do we know that bathing and anointment are forbidden in Yom Kippur?
Food.
Oh, Yom Kippur.
Yeah, anytime you see in a transliteration, if you want to avoid getting used to saying words in a way that a Hebrew speaker will not understand, which is popular in the religious Jewish world, that they have a habit of reading transliterations in a way that someone who actually speaks Hebrew would never understand them, unless they maybe grew up in the same kind of neighborhood. If you want to avoid that, the I's always make an E sound. The U's always make an oo sound, never at the end of words. That's why these transliterations, because they're accurate if you already know how to consistently use read the letters. But the average person reading them don't know that. All right, so the O's are never O, they're So yom and not yom. And the I's are always E, so ki and not kit. And the U's are always oo and not so pur and not per. Right? Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
It's not just for this word, it's for all transliterations that are, normative popular transliterations. That's how they work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're consistent. So we got to be careful to not apply to them the conventions of English pronunciation. That's a
good point. That's a good point.
And that's why I like transliterations that are a little different when I'm making them for a broad population who don't have so much Hebrew background, because you need to transliterate, you need to represent the Hebrew words with English letters in a way that the normal English speaker with little Hebrew background would naturally read it in a more accurate way. And that's not what this does.
Yeah. That's true.
All right, yalla.
Hence, we learn to say it is a Shabbat of Shabbaton. That is to say that the resting from all of these things until he arrives at affliction. See Parashat Acharimot, Mishneh Torah, rest on a holiday one.
Femod. All right. Miha Babator. Who's next in line? Miha Babator. Odaya Bachavod.
And that is that he commanded us to rest from work and certain actions on Yom Kippur.
Is
And
this
that
a
is
positive commandment by chance?
Yes, yeah, proactive
Positive.
commandment.
Proactive commandment 165. And that is that he commanded us to rest from work and certain actions on Yom Kippur. And that is his, may he be exalted, saying, it is a Shabbat of Shabbaton for you. Leviticus chapter 16, verse 31. And we have already explained several times that this rest is a positive commandment. See Parashat Emor, Mishneh Torah, Rest on a Holiday, chapter 1.
All right. Anybody have any questions about that before we move on to the nitty-gritty? It's only 3 chapters and they are not very long. So if not now, when? You guys want to do it? Let's do it.
Do you have something you wanted to add before we moved on?
No. I think it's a good overview what we did. In addition to our sidetracks, I'm dragging you guys in with my guilt.
Victor. No, that's Victor's always messing
That's
things
right.
up. All right, let me just make sure I don't have anything else. Okay, looks good.
All right, yalla b'chol namshich.
Yeah.
So now we are diving into the Mishneh Torah. We concluded reading Sefer HaMitzvot, the Book of Commandments, which is a 1 to 2 paragraph summary of each of the aspects of the covenant between God and Israel. Now we're in Mishneh Torah, where we go into much, much greater detail. We are in the Mishneh Torah, the only complete code of Jewish law by Maimonides, the Rambam. Victor, Bachavod.
Mishneh Torah, rest on the 10th of Tishrei 1.
So we'll have a little bit of review here of things we just learned from Sefer HaMitzvot. It's a little bit of review, so I apologize if it sounds redundant because we just read this in Sefer HaMitzvot, but it's going to quickly get into much greater detail. Chapter 1.
It is a positive commandment to refrain from all work on the 10th day of the 7th month. Leviticus 23, 32 states, it shall be a Sabbath of Sabbaths for you. Anyone who performs a forbidden labor negates the observance of this positive commandment and violates a negative commandment. As Numbers 29:7 states, you shall not perform any labor. What liability does a person incur for performing a forbidden labor on this day? If he performs the forbidden labor willfully, as a
High-handedly.
consciously, as an act of defiance against what he knows to be true, he is liable for karet.
Right? What is karet?
A punishment from heaven, not from man, for one thing.
Right? It's a cutting off, some sort of spiritual cutting off from the people of Israel.
If he performs the forbidden labor inadvertently, he is liable to bring a sin offering whose nature is fixed.
But it does not incur karet.
Correct.
So karet, spiritual excision, spiritual being cut off from the people of Israel, does not occur as a penalty for inadvertent sins.
Let me read another.
Wow. Why? What about us? I
Well,
don't know.
just in case I need to explain anything to you, I'll be able to just go right into it.
What do you mean?
You're a good student, but no.
Hodaya, help us.
Oh no.
Where's the teddy bear to throw
Good.
through the screen?
Good luck with that one.
I think we need atonement.
Oh no. Continuing, all the forbidden
No, it's
labors.
good to have different people read different
Well, I
ones.
know. You said there was a lot to read, or is there not? Was there just
Well, it's 3 chapters. The chapters
Oh,
are not
okay.
very long. So if any of you want to
Corrected.
leave
I've been
or you got to
corrected.
shut it down, that's fine. But if you want to try to plow through, we can just plow
No.
through.
I don't. I was just thinking there was going to be plenty to read, but you're correct. So I am cut off. Go ahead. I've been correct.
Bad pun. Heaven forbid. Oh, they have a cover.
All the forbidden labors for which one is liable to be executed by stoning for performing on the Sabbath cause one to be liable for karet if performed on the 10th of Tishrei. Any activity that incurs the obligation of a sin offering on the Sabbath incurs the obligation of a sin offering on Yom Kippur. Any activity that is forbidden to be performed on the Sabbath, although it is not for a forbidden labor, is forbidden to be performed on Yom Kippur. If one performs such an act, one is punished by stripes for rebellion, as one is punished for performing the same act on the Shabbat. Whatever is forbidden to be carried on the Shabbat is forbidden to be carried on Yom Kippur. Whatever is forbidden to be said or done at the outset on the Shabbat is likewise forbidden on Yom Kippur. The general principle is that there is no difference between the Shabbat and Yom Kippur in this regard, except that a person who willfully performs a forbidden labor on the Shabbat is liable for execution by being stoned to death, and on Yom Kippur, such an act warrants merely karet.
It is permitted to trim a vegetable on the day of Yom Kippur from mid-afternoon onward. It's talking about in preparation for eating once the fast finishes. What is meant by trimming a vegetable? To remove the wilted leaves and to cut the others to prepare them for consumption, for eating. Similarly, it is permitted to crack open nuts and to open pomegranates on Yom Kippur from mid-afternoon onward. These leniencies were granted so that one will not endure hardship. When Yom Kippur falls on a Shabbat, the weekly Sabbath, it is forbidden to trim vegetables and open nuts and pomegranates the entire day. It has already become the universally accepted custom in Bavel, that's the area of modern-day Iraq, and in North Africa, not to perform these activities during the fast. If you notice, throughout the Mishnah Torah, throughout this book we're reading, the Rambam frequently refers to Babylon and Africa, and on occasion refers to the cities of Edom, and that is because up until only a few hundred years ago from the present time right now, up until only a few centuries ago, the majority of the Jewish people were non-European Jews. It was only for the latter part of the Enlightenment period that the advancements in medicine in Europe succeeded to decrease infant mortality rates enough that the European Jewish population, which was originally the minority of the Jewish people, it succeeded, those early advancements in medicine in Europe succeeded to tilt the demographics of the Jewish people such that Ashkenazi Jews then became the majority. But throughout the overwhelming majority of Jewish history, even nearly into the modern era, Jews of Europe were not the majority. And you see that constantly reflected in classical Jewish literature. And here's one such place. Instead, Yom Kippur is observed as a Shabbat, and with regard to all particulars. Emmanuel, b'chavod.
There is another positive commandment in Yom Kippur to refrain from eating and drinking, as Leviticus 16:29 states, and you shall afflict your souls according to the oral tradition. It has been thought when is meant by affliction one soul fasting.
What is meant by afflicting one's soul? What is meant by afflicting?
What is meant by afflicting one's soul? Fasting. Whoever fasts on this day fulfills the positive commandment. Whoever eats or drinks on this day negates the observance of this positive commandment and violates a negative commandment. As Leviticus 23:29 states, any soul that does not afflict itself will be cut off, since the Torah punishes a person who does not fast with karet, or cut off.
Punishment is being cut off, thank you.
And we can derive from this that we are forbidden to eat and drink on this day. A person who eats or drinks inadvertently on this day is liable to bring a sin offering of a fixed nature.
But that means they are not cut off for having eaten because it wasn't high-handed.
Okay.
V for Hector.
Continuing. Similarly, according to the oral tradition, it has been taught that it is forbidden to wash, anoint oneself, wear shoes, or engage in sexual relations on this day. It is a mitzvah to refrain from these activities in the same way one refrains from eating and drinking. This is derived from the exegesis of the expression, a Sabbath of Sabbaths. A Sabbath implies refraining from eating, of Sabbaths, refraining from these activities. One is liable, however, for karet or a sin offering only for eating and drinking. If one washes, anoints oneself, wears shoes, or engages in sexual relations, one receives stripes for rebelliousness. And why is that? Why do they get stripes for that?
Because that is, well, I'll tell you, it's a general principle in Mishneh Torah, in the Code of Jewish Law that we're looking at right now, that when you see references to stripes for rebelliousness, most of the time it is pretty much universally recognized that it's in reference to a rabbinic restriction, meaning that to do these particular things for which one might get stripes for rebelliousness, to do those particular things would be in violation of rabbinic law as opposed to Torah law.
So-called laws that men developed maybe as a fence around.
Correct, but these are not random men. These are scholars of the Jewish world.
Some would say, well, I follow God, not man. Okay, well, you don't follow God, you're cut off. If you don't follow man,
because God explicitly said, right, because God explicitly commands us with explicit commandments in the Torah that when we have disputes, we are to bring those disputes to the scholars of the people of Israel who will sit in the place that he chose, and we are to understand his commandments as that scholarly council decides, not as we as individuals or we as local rabbis decide, but how these are national items council decides. Say what?
These items have been established by the people authorized to do so,
Yeah,
not just
that's right.
not just the neighborhood rabbi, if you will.
Correct. Correct.
Mhm.
And notice what it says. This is a
Mhm.
problem. And you don't typically have people claiming that you should have this kind of a punishment for inadvertent violation of a rabbinic law. That's not a thing. So that in mind, notice what it says. It doesn't say don't wear leather shoes. It says don't wear shoes.
Mhm.
And this is a widespread problem with regard to Tisha B'Av and also Yom Kippurim. The people have an idea that they can wear any kind of shoes they want as long as they're not leather. And that originated from the idea, well, it wasn't just a made up idea, that originated from the fact that um, in times past, leather shoes tended to be more comfortable. But that is absolutely not the case anymore. And and the source text for the halakha never specifies specifically leather shoes, it's shoes in general. And then it gives a leniency that if you wear something shoe-like, which allows you to feel the hardness of the earth more than you normally do, so that it's not comfortable as it would normally be, that you can be lenient with. So from that concept that we find in our ancient source texts, people derived that if you don't wear leather shoes, that's okay because it fulfills that leniency. But again, that was during a time when non-leather shoes were much less comfortable than leather shoes. And we're just kidding ourselves. Who are we fooling? If we think that only leather shoes are comfortable nowadays, sometimes to the opposite, it's the exact opposite. So that's why you need um, rabbinic leadership, scholarly leadership that is not swayed by payment. Because if they will say something that the local community may not necessarily like, then they may just censor themselves, and then the community will continue in its erroneous path. Please, you guys, feel free to help keep me in line because I do hope that we can cover all 3 chapters. It's very doable if you help me stay in line. I'll try to do my best also, but you guys know I'm a talker. So, in short, stripes for rebelliousness is a very good indicator that what those stripes for rebelliousness are for is a violation of rabbinic law. So anytime you see that anywhere in Mishnah Torah, you can know it's a very good indication that what it's talking about is rabbinic law, not Torah law. Penalty for Torah law would be different. It would not be called stripes for rebelliousness. Mihaba, I believe it's Hodayan, no? Or is it me?
Anihaba. Just as the obligation to refrain from work applies both during the day and at night, so too the obligation to refrain from these activities and thus to afflict oneself applies both during the day and at night. It is obligatory to add time from the mundane to the sacred at both the entrance and the departure of the holiday, as implied by the same
Right.
book.
Leviticus.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 32. And you shall afflict your souls on the 9th of the month in the evening. Since the date of the fast is the 10th, the intent is obviously that one begin fasting and afflicting oneself in the afternoon of the 9th, which directly precedes the 10th. Similarly, at the departure of the holiday, one should prolong the affliction slightly, entering the night of the 11th, which follows the 10th, as implied by, did you say Leviticus or Deuteronomy?
That's right. It's Leviticus chapter 20.
Leviticus. From evening to evening, you shall keep this day of refraining.
When women eat and drink until nightfall without knowing that we are obligated to add time from the weekday to the holiday, Yom Kippur, they should not be rebuked, lest they perform the transgression willfully, high-handedly. It is impossible for there to be policemen in every person's house to warn people's wives. Thus, it is preferable for all of our ultra-zealous religious folk out there, it is preferable to let the situation remain as it is with regard to violation of rabbinic law, so that they will be transgressing unintentionally rather than intentionally. The same principle applies in similar instances. It's not that we shouldn't educate people or shouldn't educate women, but we're talking about, and this is a principle you find in Pirkei Avot, where it says you shouldn't rebuke a guy in the moment of his anger about a particular thing, because in those instances, you often will exacerbate the problem. So it's not saying you shouldn't educate women, heaven forbid. What it's saying is when they're in the middle of the act of doing it, that's not the time. And this is only with regard to rabbinic violation. Violation of the Torah is a different matter. There you have a duty. But with regard to rabbinic law, when the person is in the middle of the act and speaking up it may embarrass them, and now you're embarrassing them with regard to something that is only rabbinic, it's not good. And they're likely to just then start doing it high-handedly because you will need to convince them. I never saw my mother do this, you know what I mean? But when it comes to Torah law, we have a Torah requirement to inform in a way that they are likely to understand. And this is a beautiful example, as we will always find if we read carefully, that we should always distinguish between Torah commandments and rabbinic injunctions and decrees. Yes, sir.
I see that, or I think of that often when I see someone say something or teach something or even think something. Will they, and correct me if I'm wrong, but should I explain something to someone where if they understand it, I think that they're going to continue high-handed now? Because in other words, they're doing it inadvertent currently. They're ignorant of the problem now. Does my teaching the person who I recognize will not change actually put them in a worse place? Or
We
are
need
they
to
still
prioritize what we need to prioritize what we teach people. There are some priorities, like being kind to your fellow man should take priority over wearing Rashi tefillin or Rambam tefillin or Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Being decent to people who have physical abnormalities, being decent, not just decent, being kind,
Mhm.
being warm to people who are who have gone through uniquely difficult life situations, being kind to widows, to orphans, to converts, to immigrants, that should take priority over pointing out to someone that they are probably eating kitniot, legumes, on Passover, and legumes are not allowed by Ashkenazi custom. Prioritize what you're
It's not
learning.
even a Sanhedrin level
No, it's
decree.
not even.
It's a local group's
Yeah, it's
decision.
not even a post-Sanhedrin edict from the Mishnaic era. It's much later. Yeah, but and even if something is from the Sanhedrin, but you prioritize oneness of God, educating people that they should not pray to any force other than the Creator, that should be prioritized over learning about the 10 Sefirot, the 10 emanations of the Sefer Bahir and the Zohar, and other medieval forgeries. If you misprioritize, people are going to seem very religious but be misrepresenting Torah. That's a huge problem, and it's also a pervasive source of bigotry that inspires anti-Semitism, unfortunately. Where did we stop? Did I read, or who was reading? I don't remember.
We had discussed the problem with having women around.
Okay, but who was reading?
I believe you read.
Okay. I don't think it was me.
Yeah, the
but
policeman in every person's house.
I don't think I was reading, but whoever wants to read can read next.
Hey, I can wait. On Yom Kippur, a person is liable for eating an amount of food that is fit for humans to eat. It's an equivalent the size of a large ripe date. It's slightly less than the size of an egg. All foods that are the one eats are combined to produce this measure. Similarly, one who drinks a cheekful of liquid fit to be drunk by humans is liable. The size of a cheekful is not the standard measure, but rather dependent on the size of the cheek of every individual. What is meant by a cheekful? Enough liquid for a person to swish to one side of his mouth and for his cheek to appear full. For an ordinary person, this measure is less than a eat.
So what it's
Oh.
teaching is that it's subjective. Each person is judged according to their subjective mouth size.
Okay. That's good. I like that idea better. All liquids that one drinks are combined to produce this measure. Foods and liquids are not combined in a single measure.
Oh, they are?
So
Yes, sir.
in the case of brushing your teeth, you shouldn't brush your teeth then. I mean, you're not drinking it, you just
If you
swish in
spit
your
it
mouth.
out, it's not a problem.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's
there
kind of
shouldn't.
that.
Go ahead.
Would that be in the area of anointing?
I don't think so. And that's a subject regarding a rabbinic concept. And there are that is a well-known area of dispute among rabbinic authorities. So you can find opinions from both directions.
Right.
You're not going to be having regular hangout times with people or intimate with one's spouse. And you're also probably not eating, so you probably can get away with one day in the year that you don't brush your teeth. But it's a rabbinic concept, and it's a doubt regarding the application of rabbinic concepts. So there's certainly room for being lenient. You should be lenient. The question is, do you want to do it?
Well,
All
there'll
right.
be no greeting that day, if I recall as well. Is that right? So no close face to face? No?
I don't recall. We'll find out, but I don't
Okay.
recall that. I think what you're talking about is Tisha B'Av for
That's
sure. Is
probably
Tisha
right.
B'Av. I don't
Mhm.
think necessarily for Yom Kippur. All right, mi haba. Odea.
One is liable for karet for eating on Yom Kippur if one eats food that is fit for human consumption, regardless of whether it is permitted or forbidden. This includes pigul, notar, tevel, the flesh of an animal that died without ritual slaughter, the flesh of an animal that is trefa, fat or blood.
All right, this is just talking about different types of vegetables that are not kosher. Yes, vegetables can be unkosher if they haven't been tithed or they're left over in one's field. You're not supposed to eat it. It's supposed to be left for the people who are entitled to it according to the Torah. This is the idea. Is just anything that is edible will be included in that tally for food to reach the uh, Torah prohibited quantity for which one would be liable.
If a person eats or drinks less than the above mentioned measures, he is not liable for karet. Although the Torah forbids partaking of less than the measure for which punishment is given, one is not liable for karet unless one partakes of that measure.
And
A
when
person-
we read a Hebrew transliteration, let's make sure to pronounce the last letter. In English, we have a habit of not pronouncing T's at the end of words as a T, but in Hebrew we need to. So instead of karet, it's going to be karet. We need to hear the T.
A person who eats or drinks less than the minimal measure of is given stripes for rebellion.
All right. So that is a rabbinically mandated penalty for something which is considered a Torah prohibition. But the Torah did not stipulate or require the penalty. Right? Stripes for rebellion is always reference to a rabbinic punishment. Usually it's in violation of a rabbinic restriction, but this is an example where it can be a rabbinic and enacted punishment for a Torah prohibition that originally had no penalty. The following rules apply when a person eats a small amount, pauses, and eats again. If the time from when he begins eating until he concludes eating is less than the time it takes to eat an amount of bread and relish equal in size to 3 eggs, the food that he eats is included in the same measure. If not, it is not included in the same measure. That means if he did not eat it in that amount of time, then it's not included in the same measure. Similar rules apply when a person drinks, pauses, and drinks again. If the time from when he begins drinking until he concludes drinking is less than the time it takes to drink a revi'it, the liquid that he drinks is included in the same measure. If not, if he doesn't drink it in that amount of time, it is not included in the same measure. Emmanuel Bachavod.
When a person eats food that are not fit for human consumption, as in bitter herbs or foul tasting syrups, or drinks liquids that are not fit to be drunk, as in fish brine, pickle brine, or diluted vinegar, he is not liable for
Undiluted. I think you said it
undiluted,
right, but I think it cut off. Undiluted.
undiluted vinegar. It is not liable for karet. Even if he eats or drinks a substantial amount, he should, however, be given stripes for rebellion.
And what does that mean? What is the significance of stripes for rebellion?
Basically being whipped for drinking or eating one of those things that were mentioned high-handedly, I guess.
That's right. But there are other types of punishments with by being whipped. It's like lashes. So
Lashes.
how are stripes for rebellion different from lashes in the context of Mishneh Torah, in the context of the book that we're reading? Both are lashes, both are technically stripes, but the terminology indicates something different. So
I
what's the
think
difference?
one of them is more severe than the other, more
Yes, that's
painful.
correct.
So stripes won't be as severe or as damaging physically as
It could be,
lashes.
but not necessarily. Not necessarily. So the difference has to do with the source for the mandate that the punishment be given.
Oh,
So
one is rabbinic, one is from
yes, yeah.
Torah. I
So
see.
which one would be rabbinic? Which would be Torah? We have two expressions. We have stripes for rebellion, and we have lashes.
Lashes is Torah, stripes are rabbinic.
Yes. So the idea is stripes for rebellion against the rabbinic instruction, whereas lashes are lashes for rebellion against a commandment in the Torah for which the Torah itself decrees lashes.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I think it's great because they're differentiating
Absolutely, absolutely,
even in the punishment, which
absolutely.
one is which. Yeah.
Right. I believe Tor shall Hector. Oh, Slicha, I'm so sorry. Tor shall Victor. Oh man. I'm not always doing it as a joke. Sometimes I don't know.
I don't want to go before Hodaya, so I believe she is up, but she can correct me
Sure.
if I'm wrong.
I
Yalla,
don't know. I
yalla.
think we've been switching back and forth.
That's
Yeah, lo hashuv. It's not important. Lo hashuv.
A person who drinks vinegar mixed with water is liable. One who chews dried pepper, dried ginger, or the like is not liable. If, however, one chews fresh ginger, one is liable. A person who eats the leaves of the vine is not liable, but one who eats the buds of the vine is liable. What is meant by the buds of the vine? The buds that have sprouted in Eretz Yisrael
The land of Israel.
from Rosh Hashanah until Yom Kippur. If they sprouted earlier, they are considered as wood, and the person is not liable. The same rules apply in all analogous situations, in all similar situations.
Excellent, beautiful. Thank you. And let's remember that she just did with the word analogous. If we see a word that probably a lot of people wouldn't necessarily understand, let's translate it. Also keep in mind that there are people who watch, probably more than you think, who watch and English is not their first language. Because unfortunately,
English is my first language, and I will sometimes have to be told what those $3 words mean. So
Yeah, so all the more so. So even if we see like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, for example, we would say like the Day of Trumpets mentioned in Leviticus chapter 23, for Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, Eretz Israel, land of Israel. I know we don't always do it. I'm not going to beat you over the head. I don't always do it, but it's good that we try, especially especially if it's a big English word.
did we do the previous one?
Yes, we did. B'chavod.
When a person eats roast meat that has been salted, the salt is included in the mass of the meat. Similarly, brine on a vegetable is included because condiments, that's mustard and ketchup and what have you, that make food fit to be eaten and are mixed together with the food are considered to be part of the food. If a person was already sated because he had overeaten, thank you, because he had overeaten, to the extent that he was jaded by food and then ate more, he is not liable. It is comparable to a person who eats food that is not fit for consumption. Although this additional amount is fit to be eaten by a person who is hungry, it is not fit for a person who is full to this extent.
Whoever wrote this translation is a linguophile. You
Oof.
know, they love words. I love it too. It's just it's been all right. Emmanuel, Tur Shulcha, your turn.
When a person is dangerously ill, uh, asked to eat in Yom Kippur, he should be fed because of his request until he says it is enough. Even though expert physician says that it is unnecessary, when the sick person says that it is unnecessary for him to eat, and the physician says that it is necessary, he should be fed according to the physician's instructions, provided the physician is an expert. When a physician says that it is necessary for a sick person to eat, and another physician says that it is unnecessary, the person should be fed. If several physicians says that it is necessary for the sick person to eat, and the other physician says that it is unnecessary, the ruling follows the majority and those with the most expertise. This applies provided the sick person does not himself said that it is necessary for him to eat. If, however, he makes such a statement, he should be fed. If the
Right?
sick
And that
person,
look how beautiful that is. Respect for the autonomy of the individual's own health is given greater weight than the opinion of even the majority of expert physicians.
Mhm.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah, if the sick person does not say that he must eat, the physicians were divided on the issue. They were all experts, and an equal number took each side. He should be fed.
All right. So, in short, when in doubt regarding the need to eat, the ultimate authority is the person himself. The person himself. And if the person himself says that he doesn't need to eat, but so the person is his own authority with regard to whether or not the person is his own authority with regard to whether he should be allowed to eat. If the person says I should be allowed to eat, then they should be allowed to eat, and it's not counted as a sin on Yom Kippur, even if even if the majority of physicians say he doesn't need to eat. But on the flip side, if he says he doesn't need to eat for his health, but physicians say that he does, then he should eat, even though he feels he doesn't need to. He shouldn't be like, oh, I'm so religious, I never ate before. Let me risk my life. Nope. Excuse me. You guys can continue reading. I'll be back in a minute if you want.
Okay.
Or do you guys want to take like a 2-minute break?
Hmm. How much longer do you have?
You mean for the class?
Total, yeah.
We can, I think we can get through an entire another chapter within an hour. by 12 if you're up for it.
Let's take a 5-minute break then.
All right. Yalla bye.
We'll be right back.
The Mishnah walk.
I like it.
I may or may not have had a snack. Nothing like clearing your teeth. It's Hamud. So cute. That's so funny. It's Hamud.
Okay, kids, you need to leave. You need to leave. You need to leave. You need to leave. This is being publicly broadcast on the internet. I'd
That's
like
so
you to not
cute.
be seen.
Yeah. Children are made to be seen and not
Children.
heard. That's what my mom always said.
I just don't like having their faces out there on the internet.
No, no, definitely, definitely. Calling all Hectors. Maybe we can continue and
I was just going to suggest that we can get started without them.
yalla. We can catch up on the recording. Emanuela Itano, are you with us? Ata Itano?
Yeah, here I am. I don't know what I was going to say, but
Ani itcha, I am with you. Ani itcha.
Ani. When a pregnant woman smells food and it is overcome by desire for it, we should whisper in her ear that today is Yom Kippur, and if this reminder is sufficient to calm her sense, it is desirable. If not, she should be fed until her desire cease. Similarly, if ceases. Similarly, if a person is overcome by ravenous hunger, he should be fed until he sees very clearly. He should be fed immediately, even if it necessitates giving him non-kosher meat or meat from a loathsome spices. We do not species. I'm sorry, loathsome species. We do not require that he wait until permitted food becomes available.
Right? Your health should come first. And you should live with the commandments, not die from them.
So when it says unkosher meat, is that like unkosher slaughter or
Yes.
what is it? What is
Yes. It's talking about meat from a kosher species, which is itself not kosher. That's why it's distinguished from loathsome species, as opposed to this, which is not a loathsome species. It's not a quote unquote unkosher species, but the meat is unkosher, meaning it wasn't slaughtered properly, or it had some sort of ailment, or it had died of its own accord.
From the time a child is 9 or 10 years old onward, he should be trained to fast for several hours. What is implied? If he is used to eating 2 hours after daybreak, he should be fed in the 3rd hour. If he is used to eating after 3 hours, he should be fed in the 4th. According to the child's stamina, we should add hours to his anguish. When a child is 11 years old, whether male or female, it is a rabbinic ordinance that he complete his fast so that he be trained in the observance of the mitzvot.
All right, mitzvot, the commandments. A female who is 12 years old and 1 day, and a male who is 13 years old and 1 day, who manifest signs of physical maturity, at least 2 pubic hairs, are considered to be adults with regard to the observance of all the commandments of the Torah, and are obligated to complete their first fast according to Torah, not simply rabbinic law. If, however, they did not manifest signs of physical maturity, they are still considered to be minors and are obligated to complete their fast only by virtue of a rabbinic decree. A child who is less than 9 years old should not be afflicted at all on Yom Kippur, lest this lead to danger. There's concern for the health of a person. And so, of course, as with all things regarding potentially risky matters, if you know that your 13-year-old child, just like if you know your 60-year-old father has a condition which makes him comparable to a young child with regard to the danger of fasting, then they should not be pressured to fast, right? And we spoke earlier about the authority of physicians with regard to that. Look, we're already on the final chapter. We can do this. We can complete the entire book. Mr. Victor, are you Itano? Ata Itano?
It is forbidden to wash on Yom Kippur, whether using hot or cold water. One may not wash one's entire body at one time, nor any individual limb. It is even forbidden to immerse one's small finger in water. A king and a bride may wash their faces, a bride so that she will not appear unattractive to her husband, and a king so that he will appear splendorous. As Isaiah 33:17 states, your eyes shall behold the king in his splendor. Until when is a wife considered to be a bride? For 30 days.
Ooh, just
30
Okay.
days from the wedding or when?
I assume it's talking about when they're living with each other. So that would be the 30 days from when they begin living with each other, which is the second part of Jewish
That
marriage.
makes sense. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Now, I have sheep. I step in stuff I don't like to step in. My limbs should be washed.
The general consensus is that you should wash for sanitation. That's not
Right,
really
right.
even if you could find someone who doesn't hold that, that is, I don't know of a single Jewish community that would disagree
Yeah,
with
yeah,
sanitary reasons. But you would not wash more than is necessary.
right.
The main thing is not to be washing for pleasure or in a way that is unnecessarily pleasurable. Because I think most of us would agree a nice warm shower feels great. When a person
Right.
is soiled with filth or mud, he may wash off the dirt in an ordinary manner without reservation. Similarly, a woman may wash one hand in water and give a piece of bread to a child. A person who is ill may wash in an ordinary manner, even though he is not dangerously ill. Similarly, all those who are obligated to immerse themselves for the sake of ritual purity should immerse themselves in an ordinary manner. This applies both on Tisha B'Av and on Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement.
The fellow rules apply in a person's age. In the person's age,
In
when
the
a man
present,
has
the
in the
following rules
oh
apply in the present age, at the current time, in the current
in the
time
present
period.
age. Thank you. I don't know why sometimes I see things that are not there.
We all do it. Come on.
When a man has a seminal emission in Yom Kippur, if he is still moist, he should wipe it off with a cloth. This is sufficient. If it's dry, he has become soil, and he may wash the soil portion of his body and pray. It is, however, forbidden for him to wash his entire body or to immerse himself. For a person who immerses himself in the present age is not ritually pure. He is impure regardless because of ritual impurity contracted from the human corpse. The practice of washing after the nocturnal emission before prayer is in the present age. It's only a custom, and a custom may not nullify a prohibition. It may only prohibit that which is permitted.
All right. So customs are permitted for individuals and for communities, but the custom doesn't have authority to come and usurp the decrees, the instructions of our sages. And it's a very important general principle, especially if you interact with the broader Jewish community, the religious Jewish world especially. There's a lot of conflation between the authority of a post-Sanhedrin custom and the decrees of the Great Sanhedrin. There's a lot of confusion there.
Now, this was written as the present day when Rambam wrote it, but I assume that it's still applicable today since we have not.
Absolutely, we don't have a Great Sanhedrin. Absolutely. And it's still, especially in Haredi communities, it's still the mainstream practice to immerse in the mikveh after a seminal emission, even though it's not required.
Don't some immerse daily too?
Exact, all the more so. Yeah, of course. That's right, especially in the Hasidic world. All right, we have a little short paragraph waiting for you, Emmanuel.
And a custom may now nullify prohibition. It may only. Oh, I already read that part. The statement that a person who had a seminal emission on Yom Kippur should immerse himself and was applicable only in the area where it was required to immerse himself
like time
after a
period.
certain era. Oh, sorry. And the era when it was required to immerse oneself after a seminal emission. And as explained, this ordinance what has already been nullified.
All right, so this was an actual halakha for a long period of time in Jewish history. Well, not such a long period of time, actually. To the contrary, it has been a custom for a long period of time, but it was an actual halakha for a short period of time from the time of Ezra the scribe, the same Ezra from the book of Ezra. But after they saw that this practice did not spread around the Jewish people, the decree became canceled. So anytime a decree is established by the Great Sanhedrin, and it's seen that it never spread among the people of Israel, then it's automatically canceled. However, this is important. However, if the Great Sanhedrin establishes a practice and it does spread throughout the Jewish people, and for generations they uphold the practice, and then it falls out of practice, not because it's too much for the people, but simply due to ignorance, or they know about it, but they're confused. And I think this is related to ignorance. They know about it, but they think, but my father didn't do it, so I'm not supposed to do it. The custom isn't nullified. You're still supposed to do it. Can you guys think of an example of such a thing? When we talked about with regard to Yom Kippur. So the leather shoes thing, I can wear super ultra comfortable Crocs on Yom Kippur because it's not made out of leather. Um, anything else you guys can think of that we know was the widespread practice among the people of Israel for generations? And these are instructions of our sages, and now it's just hardly ever done. Most people don't even know about them. And we can't hear you, Mr. Victor.
Prostration.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. It's explicit. It's explicit. This is done not just for some generations, for millennia. Anything else? If this is true for rabbinic practices, all the more so for Torah practices. Right? So, for example, the Beit HaMikdash, the entire Day of Atonement observances and services in the sacred national temple. We don't not do it just because people haven't been doing it for 2,000 years. Like if you read through the biblical record, you don't find that the righteous kings of Israel who are called righteous, you don't find that they said, oh, we're not going to keep doing, we're not going to resume doing Sukkot because we haven't been doing it for a few generations. No, they're righteous because they revived the practice of the righteous of ancient Israel, despite it having been abandoned for generations. And that's an actual explicit example in Tanakh, where they had not been observing Sukkot or Passover and then they revived it. That's the way it is. But if it's something that was established, but it did not actually spread, and it's rabbinic, then of course, yeah, it's not inherently authoritative unless we have a new great Sanhedrin that perhaps revives it, and still it would depend on does it actually spread. With regard to Torah commandments, the conditions of the everlasting covenant between God and Israel, it's not dependent on whether or not it ever spread. It is binding for all generations from the time that we accepted it at the founding of our nation at Mount Sinai. We're almost finished. Did we complete this? I believe so. Victor, would you like to read? We can't hear you.
It is forbidden to sit on mud that is moist, enough that if a person places his hand on it, sufficient moisture will rise up with it so that if he joins this hand to his other hand, the other hand will also become moist. A person should not fill an earthenware container with water and use it to cool himself, for the water permeates through its walls. It is even forbidden to use a metal container for this purpose, lest water sprinkle on his flesh. It is permitted to cool off by holding fruit against one's flesh.
On the day preceding Yom Kippur, a person may take a handkerchief and soak it in water and wring it out slightly and place it under clothes so that it will not be exposed to the heat of the sun. On the following day, he may wipe his face with it without any reservation, despite the fact it is very cold.
A person who is going to greet his teacher, his father, or someone who surpasses him in knowledge. And similarly, a person who is going to study in the house of study, the Beit Midrash, may pass through water that is neck high without reservation. Moreover, after he performs the mitzvah that he intended to perform, he may return to his home via the water. For if we did not allow him to return, he would not go. And with this restriction, we would thwart his observance of the mitzvah. What mitzvah? The mitzvah of studying Torah. Similarly, a person who goes to guard his produce may pass through water that is neck high without reservation. These leniencies are granted provided one does not extend his hands out from under the fringes of his garments as one would during the week. You know, like somebody, you just kind of, I think it's a natural thing that people kind of enjoy going through water, so you just let your hands go through the water. So we should go through it differently if it's necessary to pass through water. Look at the extent to which people would go to study Torah. Look at that. That's awesome. It's hard for us to even imagine that today, unfortunately.
It is forbidden to wear.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is forbidden to wear a leather shoe or a sandal.
Oh, what do we see with leather here?
So quotes, that means
It's not there.
probably,
It's not in the text. At least they put it in brackets. Some translations don't even put it in brackets.
wow, that's good. Even in one foot, it is, however, permitted to wear a sandal made of reeds, brushes, or the like. Similarly, a person may wind cloth over his feet, or the like, for his feet remain sensitive to the hardness of the ground, and he feels as if he is barefoot. Although children are allowed to eat, drink, wash, and anoint themselves, they should be prevented from wearing shoes and sandals.
All right. So we learned from this that you can wear any kind of footwear as long as it's not leather, right?
That's what this sort of is saying, but
No,
we
that's
should
not
not
what
wear
it's
shoes
saying.
that are. It should be
No shoes.
We should.
No shoes.
No.
Yeah, we should not wear shoes. You can wear something akin to shoes if it allows you to feel the hardness of the ground under your feet. But if you're wearing something like shoes that uh, are, they feel like regular shoes, but your community says that since it's not leather, it's okay. You're violating the halakha. There's no way around it, and it's really not. The only people who dispute this are people who believe that halakha changes
Mm.
based on what is popular. And that is really no different from the basic aspect of the Reform movement that distinguishes it from Orthodox Judaism. It's no different. It's just that the Reform movement is more quick to change Torah or disregard Torah, and they're more honest about it. Whereas in the quote unquote Orthodox world, they're not as quick to change Torah, not as you know conscious about it, but they in effect do the same thing by giving greater authority to what one's community does over what our sages have instructed. And as we've learned, there is power in a community, the community of all Israel, with regard to the enforcement of rabbinic laws and whether it remains enacted. But that's only if the enactment doesn't spread. But once we know that it has spread, if it then afterwards falls out of practice, it's still binding. So on Yom Kippur, if someone uh, is of the habit of wearing Crocs or some other really comfortable shoes just because they're not leather, if they learn that it's not permitted unless they can feel the hardness of the ground through it, more so than you normally would through regular shoes, then it's their duty on Yom Kippur to stop doing that. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is not the day that you want to high-handedly violate halakha. And most people who do this, they're not high-handedly violating halakha. But if they learn this, which few do, but if they learn it, then it is their responsibility to stop wearing Crocs on Yom Kippur. In fact, if they do, that's very audacious, to put it kindly.
I literally cannot do what all of my neighbors here. I'm surrounded by Mennonites, and their children run around on rocks completely barefoot, and that's how they're raised. And I can't. I to cross my driveway, I'm like, I'm in pain, can't move. So I get this. I mean, once I get to shul, maybe I can kick off the shoes and get in there and walk on normal flooring. That's not a
Shouldn't be
problem.
wearing regular shoes. You need to find some kind of shoes that
Right.
are not as. Let me show you guys something real fast.
Well, I was going to say my toe shoes. Like I have those ones that have the little individual toes. I can feel the
Yeah.
ground, but I'm
Okay.
not in pain.
Yeah, you don't need to be like severely suffering to the point that you can barely walk. It doesn't need to be like that. But if you can find some with very, very thin soles
Hmm.
underneath your foot, which separates your foot from the ground, find
Like a
something
really
like that.
thin flip flop,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
keep-
it would have to be even most flip-flops, frankly, are just as comfortable as shoes,
yeah.
the majority. But you can find things that don't look weird that you really can feel the ground. I'm going to show you guys something. Give me 20
Okay.
seconds left.
All right. We'll be back in 20 seconds, folks. So what do you
Get
what
your
do you got to
shopping
have on
cart
your
ready,
feet?
guys.
Sorry? Yes. Yeah.
Get your
Yeah.
shopping cart ready for the proper shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. Othaya, what are you having on? Okay. What are those? Your ballerina shoes? What is that? I'm s- I
You're
I
in trouble now.
I'm in trouble now. Yeah. Okay. What do we got? Oh, I broke it. I
No,
broke
no, no, no,
Rabbi.
no. This means in Yemenite communities, this means titbayesh lecha. Titbayesh lecha. You should be ashamed.
I
Anyway,
I feel horrible. All right. What
all
do you
good.
got?
I don't know if you can tell, but you can see my hand through this. It's very, very thin,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
Pretty sure this is
Oh,
for showers.
like a water
It says,
shoe, something you'd wear in the
yes, yes. It says
yeah.
athletic works, and this you can feel the hardness of the ground, but your feet are protected. And if you're embarrassed to not wear regular shoes, if you're embarrassed to go barefoot in your community and you think you're going to be ostracized if you do, because unfortunately some very religious communities are nearly, if they're like a cult, basically.
Mm.
So you can wear something like this and not be high-handedly violating the words of our sages, while also not ostracizing yourself in your local community. And if you want, I can give you a link to purchase these. I purchased these at Walmart. They should be widely available. And
Yeah.
this is very thin. It's very noticeably more. You're much more conscious of what you're walking over with these than with regular shoes. Like it's not just a little bit. You really feel the difference, and it doesn't hurt. At least for me, it doesn't hurt. Maybe for some people it will. I think you
Yeah.
can kind of appreciate. You can kind of get an idea of how
Yeah.
thin. Right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely thinner than your average flip flop. And I'm sure there are other options, but this is what I got. Because if you're Jewish, you have to wear all black, right?
Right.
You know, actually, it says in the Talmud that that's a custom of idolaters to wear black shoes
Dope. Oh,
and all black clothing. And now, like, if you don't wear black shoes, you're not Jewish. It's crazy, crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna go wash my hands because you guys have seen me touch.
I did. I saw that. I saw that. Yeah. So like when I'm going kayaking, that's kind of what I would throw on, the little
Yeah.
they're called like water shoes, Walmart,
So no
$5, six
excuse, no
bucks. Yeah.
excuses.
Odaya.
So Vic, you asked what I was wearing.
Yeah.
I regularly on a daily basis wear what's called barefoot shoes.
Yeah.
So they're really thin. So I don't know if I need to wear something different
What do they call
just for
those?
it to be different.
I have a couple pair actually, but I forget. The name is escaping me. I guess maybe
Um,
there's some brands.
yeah,
Like
if you're talking about like the toe shoes, I think it's
mine have
Veblen.
kangaroo leather. They're made of kangaroo,
Okay.
but I forget
Mine
what.
are just cheap ones off
You're
Amazon.
kidding.
No, no, they actually kangaroo leather doesn't shrink in water, so it's another water shoe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But they're leather, so you can't wear them on Yom
See,
Kippur.
can't wear them. That's fine.
But it says in the Gemara, the kangaroo leather is not
The
actually
kangaroo
leather because it's a
leather.
marsupial.
Oh boy.
So, Rabbi, I regularly wear barefoot shoes that are thin-soled. Should I
Oh yeah?
wear different ones than I regularly wear,
She's
or
pious
are my
all year
regular shoes
round.
are my regular shoes
The
fine?
the let's look at the text. The wording so the wording is that you don't wear shoes or sandals, but you're permitted to go out wearing sandals of this sort of type that you can feel the ground underneath you. So go out, meaning when you really have a need, if you don't do it, you're likely to injure yourself. Um, but when you're in the house, you shouldn't, or if you're in a building, you shouldn't be wearing even that. That's the way I understand this. I'm sure there are people who hold differently, but I think the wording of the Rambam is intentional. He doesn't say it's permitted lin'ol. He doesn't say it's permitted to wear shoes of this sort. No, what he says is forbidden to go out with that sort. Let's see if they are careful to make that distinction here. Nope, they completely gloss over that distinction. Completely. It's not even hinted at in here. Yeah, that's why we need to know Hebrew. Anyway,
The other
yeah.
piece of this I thought was interesting or that jumped out and maybe needs explanation is if children are exempt from doing the Torah commanded items, why is this rabbinic shoe item to be adhered to?
Can you say that again? I didn't quite understand.
It says that the children do have to go barefoot,
Mm-hmm.
but they can eat.
Yes.
Why would the restriction for the Torah command eating that why would they be exempt from that, but they better take off their shoes, which is a rabbinic item, or is it?
Probably because it's just not as big of a deal. You know, it's more bearable for the kids to not wear shoes like you described the Mennonite kids around you. I also was I'm still often will walk around outside barefoot if it hasn't just rained or something.
Mhm.
That's just not as, I think for most people, that's just not as big of a deal as not eating.
So for me, it's this huge issue. For them, it would be like, okay, no shoes today, and they'd be like, it'd be a normal day to them anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. There are many cultures where adults frequently don't wear shoes or they wear thin sandals till today. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yalla, we are almost finished.
Okay.
Mihaba Bator, who is next Bator in line?
I don't remember, but I'll go.
Marhaba.
All people are allowed to wear sandals to protect themselves from being bitten by scorpions and the like. A woman who has just given birth may wear sandals for 30 days, lest she be chilled. The same law applies to other people who are sick, even if their illness is not dangerous.
And here it's not just talking about, thin things like wrapping a cloth around you. Here it's talking about like good shoes that are good enough to protect you from a scorpion or things like that. So you're permitted if you know you'll be walking through an area where there's such a risk. Emmanuel, bechavod, your turn.
Just as it is forbidden to anoint one entire body, so too it is forbidden to anoint a portion of one's body. This restriction applies both to anointment that brings one's pleasure and to anointment that does not bring one's pleasure. When a person is sick, however, if he has sores on his scalp, he may anoint himself in an ordinary manner without any reservation.
So there are some good questions about this, but there's pretty good consensus about it, such as like, putting on deodorant. You're applying it to the outside of your body, and the intention is that it stays there. As opposed to toothpaste, for example, where there's more disagreement, because when you put the toothpaste in your mouth, it's not really like the external body. It's not what a person normally describes as any sort of anointing. And it also is also being rinsed out. You're not putting it on there for the sake of the toothpaste, right? But you're putting the toothpaste there for the sake of removing something from your body, something dirty. And this is despite the fact that in modern Hebrew, because there may be somebody who tries to catch me on this, I don't know. And that's despite the fact that in modern Hebrew, the word for toothpaste is literally teeth ointment. Mishat shinaim. Same word as Messiah, same root as Messiah, Mashiach. So toothpaste is mishat shinaim. Yes, sir.
So if you bathe, shower the day before or before your Yom Kippur will start, is it Is there a rule when you could do those things before the arrival of Yom Kippur or
This is
before the
only talking
sunset
about on
really
Yom
begins?
Kippur, just like the shoes. You can wear shoes before Yom Kippur. You can also anoint yourself before Yom Kippur, but don't do it
Okay.
on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, because I was thinking maybe just shower before and then
Of course you
so
can
you're
shower. I
not
hope you do.
stinky the whole day.
Oh, it's nasty. It's not good. Some people think like
Yeah.
this. Like, man, when we're in a congregation, there's a lot of people all together. If everybody were to be unhygienic, it's really, it's not honor to
Distracting,
God,
yeah.
nor to other people. So
Yeah.
what?
It's really distracting as well. So,
Absolutely. And we're not supposed to pray in a foul environment either. There's an actual halakha on that.
yeah.
All right. Victor, bachavod.
There are communities where it is customary to light a candle on Yom Kippur, so that one will be modest with regard to one's wife and thus not be prompted to engage in sexual relations. There are, by contrast, other communities where it is customary not to light a candle, lest one sees one's wife, be attracted to her, and be prompted to engage in sexual relations. If
So one person, one type, or one custom was created by probably regular masculine straight men, and the other is probably a custom that originated by uh, low libido. Let's just put it that way. Because I think the average guy, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the average guy would be more likely if they see their wife. This is understanding that they're sleeping in separate beds.
men are visual, men are visual.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it could depend on the home living situation too. If you're in a room with a bunch of other people, having a light on might be different than having a light off.
Yeah,
Mm.
and we do. You're right, and we do need to remember the historical living situations. Historically, people would basically have one large room that was the house, and the different rooms were not little rooms like today, but rather partitions like fabric or something that was temporary that could be moved and adjusted. And that's all that separated. And we
Yeah,
do have a
and
halakha,
the phrase of it being for modesty is what
right?
kind of made me think that that might be something that was related to
Yeah.
that.
All right, let's continue.
If Yom Kippur falls on the Sabbath, it is an obligation to light a candle incumbent on the members of all communities. For lighting a candle on the Shabbat is an obligation. Blessed be Hashem who grants assistance.
Barich Rahamon Desayan, blessed is the compassionate one who aids us. Kol we went through the entirety of the laws of Yom Kippurim al pi Mishneh Torah LaRambam. Kol hakavod.
Yay,
All
we
right,
did it.
Somkal, everybody, have an easy and meaningful and effectuous fast. You guys have any questions? Anybody in the chat, interwebs, and such?
Any recommendations for health-wise and perhaps tips that newcomers wouldn't think of?
Any tips
Like,
health-wise? Oh, yes, very good. Very, very good. So like with before any fast, you want to have uh a good meal beforehand, but not just a random meal. If you stretch your stomach out, you might actually feel more hunger pains during the fast. So you don't want to overdo it, but you do want to have a good meal, and you want to make sure that you're eating fats and proteins which take longer to digest rather than simple carbs. Simple carbs may be delicious, they may fill you up at the moment, but they break down a lot more quickly. Also, that's good health advice in general to try to avoid simple carbohydrates because it tends to lead to obesity, which is not a mitzvah. It's not a good thing to be obese. I know it's a real struggle, but ultimately we do control, what goes in our mouths. And, I know it's not simple. I speak as somebody who, I grew up in the deep South. Almost everybody here struggles with obesity. I'm not just the one person who doesn't have that magical gene that doesn't make you obese. It's because of how I eat and live. And I know it's not simple, but the difficult part is not really losing the weight. It's the breaking the habits that keep it on. And it's certainly hard to, it's kind of like a domino effect. It's the heavier that a person gets, the harder it is to be physically active, and then that compounds the problem. So at first, yes, it's difficult to be physically active, but you can control what you eat and who you're around. The hardest part is when a spouse is enabling another spouse. That's really, really hard. And if it's a serious health issue, I would say, I don't think I should be ashamed to say this. I feel a little bad to say it, but if it's a real health issue, and for a lot of people it is, that's grounds for divorce. If your spouse is an enabler and you're trying to eat healthier to save your life and so that your kids will have a parent, and your spouse is just not trying consistently. You don't need to fight with them, be rude to them, but if you see after several years of trying that anytime you're trying to diet, that they're just sabotaging it, you can't, it's not reasonable to think you can maintain a healthy lifestyle if they're bringing chocolate cake home every day. You know what I mean? That should be grounds for divorce because that's an endangerment to your life. I'm not talking about being super fit. I'm talking about baseline, not 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 looking in the mirror and thinking
Dying,
I might have a heart attack. I'm so big.
right?
Yeah.
Dying of a diabetic shock
And
or stroke
there
or
are
something.
cases where a spouse is an enabler. Sometimes they do it to each other. And maybe after you both lose the weight, you can come back together. But there should be recognition that I love you enough to separate long enough that you can live. It's a real thing. But back to the fasting. Yes, it's a good general rule, but also for fasting, it's harder to fast if you're filling up on simple carbs. Uh,
Yeah.
they are not
You
the
could
devil. You can have them sometimes, but not the way they do in the Western diet.
big plate of pasta and bread is
Not a
just
good
going to leave
idea.
you hungry in an hour.
Yes, yes. Thank you for
It
your
doesn't.
examples. I didn't give examples. Things
Yeah.
like potatoes, pasta, a bunch of bread, not good before any fast. This is not only health advice, that this is good health advice. We're not saying you can't eat pasta and bread, but if that's the main staple of your diet, you're not going to lose weight. And for fasting, that you don't want that to be your last meal. You want it to be meat or high fat, high protein dairy like Greek yogurt. You can have some carbs, but not simple carbs. You want the main part to be fat and proteins. I'm not saying this as a halakha. I'm saying it's not a law. It's not a Jewish law, but this is to make it easier for you to make your keeping of the Torah more pleasant. And of course, be hydrating yourself throughout the day. You can also overdo water. It can actually be dangerous if you drink too much water, but it's kind of hard to do that. Just stay
Weaning
hydrated
off the
throughout the.
coffee prior as well.
Oh yeah, it's a diuretic.
Toning down if your body is if you normally drink 2 or 3 cups and you go cold turkey, you're going to have a very bad headache versus if you can drop it down to a cup a day and that week and maybe half a cup the day before, you'll probably coast right through without that pain.
And for people who are concerned about like the safetyness of it, the Jewish people have been doing this for more than 3,000 years. Like it's not a problem if you are in decent health. And as we already learned, if there's a serious concern for your health, even eat a
Absolutely.
pig if you need to. But the majority of people, especially people normally on a Western diet, they don't need to be eating anyway. It would be really good for them to maybe have a few Yom Kippurs throughout the year. I'm serious. Like, I don't know if the word has gotten around, but my impression is that there is an increased awareness of the benefits of fasting. There are a lot of benefits to fasting. You can overdo anything, but with moderation, you can handle one day in the year. You can do it. And maybe you can use it as a uh, launch pad to fast a few other times in the year for your own health, if not just for your health. Doesn't have to be 25-hour fast. Do half a day fast. and don't gorge yourself with simple carbs afterwards. And you can actually start finding yourself enjoying life even more. God gave the Torah to enjoy life. It's for life, not for suffering. Right? It's a way of pleasantness, and all our paths are peace. He gave it that we will live by it, not suffer and die by it, to be a light to the nations, for good health. For good health. You should rejoice in your festival. How can you rejoice in the festival? How can you make the pilgrimage to the temple and go around the altar 7 times if you're out of breath after just, the first 20 feet? Not good. Not good. You guys should know I'm not preaching to you guys specifically. But, but it's a problem. It's a problem in the Western world. And health it's a mitzvah.
Yeah, you mentioned if someone is having problems, you feed them, and I agree. Even to the point of cooking for them, chopping wood for them, so that you can
Yeah.
get them that food. It's we tend to, well, give them whatever, but in reality, preserving that life can come at a great cost of other uh, laws. In other words, we don't work on
It takes
Shabbat, we don't cook
priority.
on
It
Shabbat.
should take
Absolutely.
priority.
I
Definitely.
think there's even stories in Talmud where we see high priest, if I'm not mistaken, is heading to his Yom Kippur service, and he stops and chops wood and cooks a meal for a sick widow.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, you guys, in that case, wait, is this a question?
I'll mention one more thing. When you're breaking your fast, make sure to take it slow.
Oh, yes. You speak.
You're gonna be hungry.
It sounds like you speak from experience.
A little bit. I've had other issues breaking fast, but
What do you think of Psalm 111, verse 1 as a mandate? Oh, there's something covering it. I can't see it. As a
praise
mandate
the
to praise the
Almighty
Almighty in the congregation.
yeah.
Well, we don't need that because it's already commanded in the Torah. Mikra Kodesh is a day of holy assembly. Yes, ideally it's in the Beit HaMikdash, it's in the temple. But you do the best you can, and for most of us, the best we can do is a local congregation. And that is a duty on the entire community by rabbinic law, if you don't understand it from the text itself, by inference. But yes, that's just a reflection of an already understood commandment. That's very good.
Is it punishable for not doing so? Or not, if you can't, or if you don't?
No. We don't need, like, Torah is not a framework in which you hire investigators to try to find out how we can catch someone, and then punish you. There are all sorts of reasons a person might not be able to go to a synagogue. There might be multiple synagogues. It's not our responsibility to be following people and making sure they went into a synagogue, that they went into the right synagogue. It's not our duty. They're accountable to themselves and to God. If we see them flagrantly doing something, or if you're a qualified witness and you see them high-handedly doing something, you tell them to stop. You have a duty to tell them at least twice, and that needs to be 2 witnesses. Then you have a duty to report them to the courts of Israel. And we're talking about in an ideal Jewish land, right? We're not talking about in the modern state of Israel. People don't do this. That's it. But you don't go stalking people trying to find where you can condemn them. That's not Torah Judaism. All right, you guys. Let's continue and move on to completing the lesson. Odaya, would you like to conclude for us?
do you want me to do the whole thing, or do you want to take turns?
Oh, we can take turns.
Modeh ani lefanecha Adonai Elohai. I am grateful before you, O Eternal, the powerful authority over me.
That you have placed my portion among those who dwell in your house of study.
Willow sim samta uh,
2 syllables.
uh,
Hel.
Helhi Miosh Mioshve uh, Kronot
Good, good. That you have not placed my portion among those who sit idly on street corners. Emmanuel, בכבוד.
שאני משכים והם
You want to
משכימים.
soften, no friction on the haze.
Yeah. והם משכימים.
All right, for I get up early and they get up early.
אני משכים לדברי תורה.
Le
I-
livre, le
Le-
livre.
לדברי. I get up early to matters of Torah.
You want to continue?
והם משכימים לדברים בטלים. And they get up early to empty matters.
אני عمل وهم عملين. I toil and they toil. I work hard and they work hard.
אני עמל ומקבל שכר.
Beautiful. You read it beautifully. I toil and receive reward. You want to keep going? Good, good.
והם עמלים وإن מקבלים שכר.
Beautiful. Tetargam, translate.
Go ahead.
And they, him rhymes with the English translation. Him is them. So they and them are the same word. They. Amel means work hard. What is amelim? Just the plural.
They work hard.
That's it.
And do not receive reward.
Excellent. Manuel בכבוד.
אני רץ והם רצים. I run and they run, I believe.
Beautiful. נכון, נכון. אתה רוצה להמשיך? Would you like to continue?
אני רץ לחיי העולם הבא. And I ran to the life and the world to come.
Okay.
והם רצים live air.
That's it.
Shahat. Yeah. And they ran for a pit of destruction.
All right.
Yeah.
Would someone like to conclude with a personalized prayer? Please also mention Yosef Israel ben Avraham of India. Yosef Israel. You could just say Yosef's friends in India. He, his wife, his whole family.
Our Father, our King, we look at this time of preparing to enter into the season and this day of importance, the Yom Kippur, and that we are prepared and that we prepare ourselves to be one with the community as we fast this day. We ask for strength and during this time of affliction. We lift up those in India who need is it healing
Yes, sir.
that you would give them strength and restore their health, and all of God's people said,
Amen. Hazak uvaruch. Strengthened and blessed. His kula mitzvot. Toda rabah, habibis. See you next week, inshallah, by God's will.
Shabbat Tov.
Behave, don't eat too many simple carbs, except on Shabbat. Shabbos. You get a neshama yetzirah. That extra soul adds on the pounds. All right.
Toda.